Good morning, good afternoon, rather. Welcome to today's conversation. My name is Lindsay Young, and I'm the president of Aspens Media. Just one second. First, a little bit of housekeeping. For those of you listening live, you can keep your video on if you want, but please keep the audio off. But we still want to hear from you. If you have questions, put those in the chat, and we'll either ask them as we get them, or we'll leave time for the Q&A at the end. For those listening in on our podcast, Attract, Engage, Grow, or on YouTube, thank you so much for tuning in. Let's dive right into our topic. So if you want your business to show up in search results for your prospective customers, you need to make sure your website and your content can be found. It's important not to make your SEO an afterthought. It should be integrated into your sales and marketing strategies. Best practices can drive real results for your business. Joining us to talk about this topic today is Jennifer Kern. She is our Director of SEO for Aspens Media. She has a degree in information science, and she started her career working for libraries. Excuse me. And that's where she discovered her love for organizing and finding information. And that interest now plays itself out online. She specializes in website optimization, online marketing, and SEO. And she's been doing that now for 15 years. Thank you for joining me today, Jen.
Thank you for having me, Lindsay. My pleasure.
Great. So let's just dive right in, Jen. So our research, really the research of firms like Forrester, McKinsey, Gartner, shows that anywhere from 70% to 90% of B2B customer journeys now start with search. And by search, I mean, plugging in a search term into Google, for example. So let's just lay a foundation, make sure we're all on the same page, and start with the basics. Let's define SEO.
Okay, sure. So SEO, as you alluded to, stands for search engine optimization. And that's the process of optimizing a website to rank higher on a search engine's results page. And the abbreviation for that, the acronym is SERP. So I'm going to keep saying SERP because it's faster. And it's ultimately the process of improving the online visibility of your business. You want to optimize your website so that you're best positioned to show up for your target audience when they're searching. So that's what SEO is in a very teeny tiny nutshell.
Great. And I just went ahead and shared my screen here. Hopefully everybody can see this. I'm just going to walk through a little bit more information on that.
Yeah, we just grabbed this graphic that was created by Ahrefs, marketing search tool. And we just wanted to highlight the difference between what a paid result is on a search engine results page on a SERP and what organic results are like. So usually, if it's a popular term, there's companies who are paying to be right at the top. So that's kind of like the toll that Google is charging, for you to get up to the top. And then organic simply means that you're not paying Google or any search engine. You're just naturally arriving in those positions. Yeah, and then I just took a few screenshots in real life here to show again, how teeny, if you look at that little teeny word sponsored, that's again, it's the notation for what is a sponsored position has gotten tinier and tinier over the years. So right up there, actually, I think the first and the second are both sponsored positions. And you've probably seen so many changes even in the last 4 or 5 years on the SERP, because second down on this page is something called a featured snippet. And those are parts of a web page that get pulled out of Google's knowledge graph and popped into search, because Google's trying to answer a lot of questions right on the page. And then another feature you see in this search is something called a people also ask. So again, those are kind of organic features that are different than what we see further down the page. And I think I took a snapshot right after. So this is further down that page. This is kind of the more traditional look of a SERP with blue links. And now you'll even see other popular links will show up in smaller print underneath the primary page. So we wanted to share, yeah, here we go. And then even further down. Oh, and I should say, I think it was December of last year, Google moved away from pagination, where you used to have like more or less 10 links, and then you would click to keep going to the next one. Well, now they've introduced infinite scroll. So you will constantly see new sites and features pop up as you scroll down now. So this is what you're seeing. We have related searches that Google infuses there as a helpful way of aiding in your navigation. They put in a whole plethora of things. And this is ever changing. So that's the basic anatomy of a SERP, but we wanted to, oh yeah, and here's, sorry, I'm mobile, just to show you, I put in a simple term. And again, here's, especially if you're in e-commerce, you'll see sponsored positioning all at the top for these terms. And then the second snap on the right is pretty far down on my mobile phone. That's, showing you an organic result. So
the point of this is that most of the paid results are at the top and the organic are lower down on the page typically.
Yeah, typically for, popular terms. Yeah, and so we wanted to just give a little bit of data. This is from a pretty big study using SEMrush data and published by Backlinko. And they did this just in May. So this is the latest on traffic that's going to get to what position. So you'll see here, if you're in the top position, you're already getting 28% of clicks. And then I just did some ups. If you're in 1 to 5, that's 69% of the clicks. And then the 1 to 10 positions are 86%. So all of this is supporting evidence in your business case for why you want to be paying attention to SEO for your business, because this is the data that's pointing to who's clicking and at how far down someone will actually go
on this results page. And Jen, to kind of just clarify for our listeners, organic, when we say organic, and many of you may already know this, but we don't want to assume anything. Organic are those results that are free. They're not the paid results. They are the results that show up as a result of Google thinking those pages are going to answer your question, whether they're great or not. Google thinks that they are the right answer, and that's what we're talking about here. This does not reflect clicks on results.
No. Exactly. No paid. This is not looking at paid traffic. This is just looking at organic.
Great. Thank you.
And organic is indeed natural traffic. Sometimes you say it, but you're not paying Google or whichever search engine to get to the top.
Okay, cool. Thank you for clarifying. And, for our listeners out there, I just don't like to leave anything, left undefined. We may stop a few times for clarification just to make sure everybody's on the same page. So Jen, you're talking about, the #1 result in Google having a click result of almost 30%, that most people are going to click on one of the first 5 results. So let's now talk a little bit. Again, we're just kind of laying the foundation before we jump into the business case of why those pages or why those websites have magically or not so magically, which is the case, appeared in those top 3 or top 5 on those search engine results pages.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and I would say maybe a little teeny tiny bit of magic dust, but mostly they're following best practices. And a lot of course bigger companies have a bigger authority, but most pages that rank high are going to follow these basic pillars. And most importantly are some of the technical aspects of SEO. So that's making sure that there's nothing on the back end of the website that might be preventing you from being crawled and indexed. Is your website fast enough? Because all of these are different signals in the algorithm. So you want to make sure your website is fast, of course, that it's mobile friendly. Yeah, I mean, there's many technical aspects, but that's one of the most foundational ones, making sure that your website is working well and that crawlers can find your site. Then there's what is often referred to as like on-page elements. And that is referring to making sure that whatever target keywords that you want to be found for are in these relevant places on the page. And those most relevant ones are your page title, your page description, definitely your URL. You want all those elements to be infused with those target keywords, and other elements like your header names, your H tags. And then generally speaking, there's types of content that Google would like to see if it's an aid to kind of bolstering your content, like images and videos. So that's these on-page best practices that probably all those top pages are doing well.
Okay, thank you, Jen. And kind of, again, just to kind of go back a little bit, keywords. When you're talking about keyword targets, are we talking about just words randomly that, you know, we think we should rank for, or is there kind of a process? You don't have to go into the process, but can you talk a little bit more about, you know, how your people determine those keyword targets, like how, because it matters which keywords you choose.
Yeah, it certainly matters incredibly so. Well, of course, you know, we do want to use any type of like intel that you have. Like you want to start usually with like a list that your customer service reps are hearing from customers, that your sales folks are hearing. So you want to start with like, you know, an internal list, and then of course like your wish list of target phrases that you want to be appearing for. But then the next step is actually sort of validating that by doing keyword research. And there's loads of different tools you can do that in. But what these tools will give you are search volume estimates. So they'll tell you, okay, someone's searching for, you know, best tennis racket for a 10-year-old or something like this. They'll tell you, well, there's, you know, 40 people searching for that term a month. So that's a super, but a quick overview of what keyword research is. It's based in data from actual searches by actual humans, and then you're using that to validate, okay, wait, is this term something that my potential customers are using? Or actually there's no volume for that, but there's a variation, and that's getting a lot of volume. So
yeah,
that's keyword research in a super nutshell.
In a super, in a very small nutshell.
Got a lot of nutshells here. Yeah, in a nutshell.
So the third pillar is off page, correct? The third pillar of the SEO equation. I think I'm mixing.
Yeah, no, it's probably, yeah, equation or the pillars. Like when we talk internally, it's like the pillars, technical, you're on page, and then off page. And there's, you know, different parts of off page, but really the most critical one is backlinks. And it's simple explanation, of course, of a backlink is, you know, if someone on a different page thinks your content is so great that they're going to include a link to it on, you know, in their post, in their article. So they're linking back to you. And then, of course, Google can read all this data, and they are saying, oh, well, this pretty high authority site thinks that Lindsay Young's post on, I don't know, data attribution models is so authoritative that someone else is linking to it. So that's, you know, these are confidence boosters, kind of in layperson's term. So that's the number one really big part of off-page SEO. Yeah.
Great. And then all of these kind of improve, the goal is with all three of these is to improve visibility of the content you're creating, right, on your site. Like, because if you create, it's kind of like if you cut a tree down in the forest and no one's there to hear it, does it make a sound? Like if you create all this great content on your website, but you don't optimize it, is it actually going to get found and read by the people that you want?
Yeah. And I didn't actually, I know that I had some statistic at some point about the percentage of content that like the percentage of basically of links out in the universe that never get a click, right? That are never read. And I'm sure many people have experienced that. Again, you can spend lots of time thinking that you know what your target audience is interested in or what they need. But if you haven't put the research into it and then optimized before publication, you know, it can just sit there and just be waiting for someone's eyes. So yeah.
Someone to read it. Okay, so now we've kind of gone through the basics here. It sounds like a lot of work, resources, time, even money, and it's not something, and we'll talk about this later, that you're just going to set and forget. This is an ongoing process. So why is this worth it? Why is SEO important for your business, Jen? What are the benefits of investing in this process?
Yeah. Well, you know, just to distinguish it again from investing in paid, right? Paid traffic, it's like a limited funnel, right? You got to pay to play. Whereas working on your, optimizing your site in an organic way, you have long-term potential for increased website traffic. I mean, that's the most is the highest benefit, of course. More traffic to your site, which is going to, if your site is then well optimized for lead conversion, then it's going to lead to an increase in those leads and those sales. So that's the simple one. But we did put some numbers here just to say that a study by Moz, another marketing tool company, found that about 2.8% of people click on ads, right? And then there's the rest of the universe that's clicking, on organic options. And that the reach of organic search over paid, over PPC, is about 20x. So again, number one is, why are you doing SEO? Fundamental. You want to get more eyes to your web pages, and not just eyes, but you want to make sure that those eyes are then converting. But there's other ones too. And, I think it was Andy Crestodino, one of our favorite marketing gurus out there. And he once said that, how you appear on a SERP is kind of like another version of a homepage for you, right? You want to make sure that customers, when they're searching for you, they see you, right? So you're improving your brand awareness by simply being up at the top of a page. And hand in hand with being up at the top of the page, you're building credibility for your brand, for your pages, by just, again, being high up. Yeah. Those are some of the benefits. Oh, I did have another one in my notes that I find really, really important, which is, of course, leads, convergence, all of this, but also, you're hopefully creating content that is going to, impact and improve your users' day, right? You're answering a question, you're giving them, research that's going to help them in their work life. And so by creating content that's mapped well to the intent of the searcher, you're improving their user experience, right? Like, we all know, like, you search for something, you click there, and then you're like on this page, and it's like not relevant to what you're like, hey, that's annoying. So you want to make sure you're mapping the query and the intent to the content on your page. That improves the user experience. So, you arrive at a page, what else did they do? Maybe they give you a nice executive summary at the top. Well, that's great. Maybe they're answering your question right at the top. Those are some SEO best practices, but they're just best practices in UX too. And then there's other crossovers, I think, between user experience, UX, and SEO, such as, just chunking information in digestible bits, right? Having clear and keyword targeted headers, so that if someone's scanning, which we're always doing, you can say, oh, actually, I don't care about this part. I don't care about this. There it is. So there's lots of ways that the user experience and SEO go hand in hand. And then at the end of the day, the longer a person's on a page, that's another signal in Google. So if you have a page that's enjoyable to be at, you're going to stay there longer. So that's a side benefit of SEO.
Side benefit, yeah. And as we all know, a person's experience with your brand starts before they even get to your website. So to your point, making it easy for them to find what they're looking for. If you can play a role in that, that is a point in your favor. I just wanted to remind everyone that's joined us since we started, that if you have a question for Jen or myself, please pop it in the chat. We're happy to stop, answer questions as we go, or if it's more relevant for the end, that's fine, but please don't be afraid to share your questions. So I'm going to take a slight detour, Jen. You mentioned trustworthiness, credibility, all of those awesome, fancy, great words that all brands want to be seen as. But how can Google determine that somebody or something like a website is trustworthy and credible? How do they do that?
Yeah. Well, it's super complex. And I can't say that I know. Of course, Google doesn't publish all of the details, but they have come a long way in the last even 2 to 3 years in documenting answers to this type of question. That's like fully accessible by going, and I can share some links to their documentation. But there's, again, hundreds of factors that make up this ever-changing algorithm, right? But priority one is relevance. The Google and other search algorithms, they're trying, of course, to determine, does the page map to the query? And there's lots of details that they're processing in doing that. Of course, the keyword, location, your geolocation, right? Because if you're in a certain place and you're looking for something on your phone, which they know you're on a phone too, they're going to deliver different results than if you're in a different location on a desktop, for example.
Yeah.
So
can I give a specific example? So if a distributor has a branch location in a specific area like St. Louis, an area of St. Louis, a contractor is looking for a last minute pickup of some sort of supply, they do a quick search, it's more likely to bring up that distributor's branch than it would a Granger branch across the country, for example.
of course, yeah,
Knows
and
where
that's
you're
and that's all.
Mhm.
Yes, absolutely. And that's all baked into the algorithm, some of those things. So technically you don't have to be doing any of that. We're sort of speaking on like, how is Google figuring this out? So that's the relevance that they're always fine tuning, right? They're always fine tuning. But for SEOs, probably the most important one to even speak about, to share, is quality. Like, how does the algorithm determine quality? And again, there's a lot of documentation that they're sharing on this. And so I want to say it's 3+ years ago, Google shared this concept of EAT. And now a few months ago, it's turned into EEAT. And that stands for experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. And so those are some of the factors that the algorithm is looking at when they're ranking pages. There is something called a helpful content system. This is Google's proprietary system. And again, these are some of the signals in the algorithm. And so I just put some notes together because, you hear, if you follow a little bit of SEO, it's like updates constantly. So you have to like sometimes pause the notifications. But this one was critical back in May because Google has said some really interesting things. And I'm going to read a couple of those because they said with that last update, they are trying to improve how we rank results in search overall with a greater focus on content with unique expertise and experience. We will roll out an update to the system that more deeply understands content created from a personal or expert point of view, allowing us to rank more of these useful and more of this type of useful information. So, and again, there's great documentation on this. We'll share the link to it, but some of the things that we'll look at internally, and then I would recommend anyone look at, is Google has these self-assessment questions, right? So you're about to publish something. Thanks, Lindsay. And here are some of the questions, right? Or when you're developing your content strategy in general, look at these questions because Google is telling you, hey, this is what we're using as determinants, right? Does the content provide original information, reporting, research, or analysis? Does the content provide a substantial, complete, or comprehensive description of the topic? I love this one. If the content draws on other sources, does it avoid simply copying or rewriting those sources instead of providing substantial additional value and originality? So I could go on and on. It's so fun to look at this stuff and then integrate it into your, into your strategy. But, as Lindsay shared that link, there's lots of documentation. So I don't think it's so much of a mystery anymore of why things are appearing organically. You just have to do the homework and, pay attention to what they're asking for. So I don't want to forget to talk again about backlinks because a backlink again is an authority signal. So if a site or multiple sites who also are deemed to have high quality pages on their site are referring to you, that's a backlink. That's a great signal, and that's a really crucial part of succeeding in SEO.
Awesome.
And then I think we talked about some of the technical things before: your speed, your mobile friendliness, all of that.
All of the pillars. Are there any other benefits of SEO, Jen?
Yeah. The other one, when we were preparing for this, I said, again, beyond what we're all looking for, which is an increase in leads, is when you're doing, you're doing it or when you're a benefit, of SEO research, you're going to learn more about your customer, right? There's so many ways, of course, to learn about your customer, but by doing keyword research, looking at search intent, and then looking at your competitors, what content are they ranking for? What what are the gaps maybe between what your competitor is ranking for and what you can do? There's so much information that you can learn, about your customer, that then can be shared across your channels, right? Like, okay, these are terms that your potential customers are talking about. Maybe there's an email campaign that comes out about it, or maybe it ends up in a social post. But I think, just like any research, it can be shared across your marketing channels.
That's awesome. Yeah, that I feel like that's a benefit that often gets overlooked of SEO, and the research that comes with it is understanding the voice of the customer better. So ideally, Jen, all of these benefits, everything that you just outlined, ideally lead to more leads or relevant or qualified leads and more sales, depending on your business goals, of course.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, no doubt. Like, no doubt. We say it, of course, like internally all the time. It's great to say, okay, we've increased sessions, we've increased yada yada, but if that's not converting in some way, right, to a bump in your leads, a bump in your sales, they're called vanity metrics, essentially. It's great to say that, and that's good. You want to look at your organic traffic trends, of course, but if that's not somehow connected to the actual business goals, then who cares? In the end of the most people that don't care. We can't, like I said, you can't like pay the rent with a page view, right? So
that's true. Well, so let's say, I wish you could, let's say that you're a marketing director or running a company and you need to make a case, because right now everyone's, short on time, short on labor, etc. Let's say you're a marketing director, you need to make a case for investing time and money into SEO. So how, from your perspective, Jen, can you get buy-in? And then how can you set it up in a way that you can move toward these results we're talking about? What's that look like?
Yeah. So, whether we call it like a business case, like a document, right? Whether you're calling it a business case, whether you're calling it a business proposal, whatever you call it, I think it's just going at the executive level. And so we want to keep it simple. So I always suggest like 4 parts, a summary, and we've already done that here, but you want to have at least a definitional section. What is SEO? How does it work? Super simple. Then, we want to look at opportunity and we want to look at risk. And so as we talked about above, earlier, there's opportunity, of course, of the benefits, the increased website traffic, increase in leads and sales. And some of the ways that you can estimate for that, so it's not just saying increased leads or increase this, is you can use data such as, when you're digging into your keyword research, you can look at volumes for keywords that you want to be ranking for, and then you can extrapolate search traffic volume based on that. So there's ways that even at a rudimentary level, you can put some numbers to the opportunity. But I find in any of these situations, what raises more eyebrows and it garners more attention is talking about the competitive landscape. So what's nice to do, you can even put some screenshots in your business case, but you want to show, these are the terms we want to be ranking for. Go to a Google search, show where you are, show where your competitors are. Very simple to get C-level eyes opened by showing where they're, in position to competitors. Then in terms of numbers, again, you can look at search volume for, say a handful of your branded search terms, and then do that for your competitors. You want more visibility. Let's say your competitors have this amount of branded search volume. Here's yours. Of course, you want to move the needle. And then again, looking at organic search traffic and some of these tools, you can do that for your competitors. You can present that number from your own data. Again, all under the kind of the umbrella of the risk. That was like part 2 is like, you want to show, the opportunity and the risk.
Yeah.
So
and if I can,
Mhm.
Sorry, Jen, I just wanted to interrupt just quickly. When we're talking about sharing competitors' positioning in search, where they're showing up compared to where you're showing up for certain terms, All of that information is available on some widely used tools that are out there. You know, we're not doing, it's not like corporate espionage or something where we're secretly digging in and hacking in to find this information. Tools like SEMrush and other similar tools, actually, you can actually do research on these websites to see what they're ranking for, and you know, and what they're not ranking for. So I just wanted to specify that there are tools out there that can help you do that.
Yeah, it's really not hard at all to get some of the basic data. And again, is it perfect data? No, none of this data is going to be perfect, but it's giving you estimates. And then, you know, you're mapping yourself against your competitors. These are the phrases, even if you say, here's 10 phrases we want to be ranking for, this is where they are, this is where we are. You want to start investing. And again, this is part of your business case, risk section, the risk section.
Yeah. And then you want to combine all of that, right, with your business goals. Again, we go back to your business goals because every business is different.
Exactly. I mean, and again, most, you know, I think most clients we see, most folks, you of course, if you're in e-commerce, you have your sales data. So then you can, again, do some basic forecasting going by organic channel, and doing some forecasting against that. But then, you know, again, if you have a monetary value on your lead conversions, that's another way, again, to make some estimates in a simple way.
Awesome. So let's go a little bit deeper, Jen. Obviously, when you're making a business case for SEO and you're building a plan out, you need to have a good grasp on the cost of SEO. So could you walk us through just some of the factors that people should consider when they're building a plan for all of this?
Yeah, I mean, of course, like first and foremost, it's the size and like the complexity of your website. You know, if you're a site that isn't doing e-commerce directly, maybe you have, you know, 1,000 pages on your site. The SEO efforts for that, it's going to look a lot different than if you're doing direct sales and you've got SKUs like in the millions. So the size and complexity of your website is a big factor. And then, you know, what your niche is. What are those keywords? Are they super high volume? Are they super competitive? Or maybe they're not so much, or maybe you're looking at more of a long tail strategy. So that's going to be a big one. And then, you know, the kind of the menu of SEO services that you want to invest in. Again, technical content creation, and so forth. So there's lots of different components. Those are just a few that's going to determine the cost.
Awesome, thank you. And, you know, I think it's good to point out that, you know, some of this you could do internally, but maybe hiring someone with SEO background is a good, you know, a good first step if you're going to do that. And then there are all sorts of firms that you can outsource components of SEO to. So just make sure they're all on the same page, but that's a whole different topic and we're not going to dive into that right now. That all impacts the cost. So shall we jump right back? Should we jump into the ROI then? You know, we're talking about the cost. Okay, how can we kind of determine what the results are going to be? How can we measure success?
Yeah, and yeah, I think I probably jumped ahead of myself, but earlier on when we were talking about, you know, using some market research tools, right, to get some organic traffic estimates. So that's where you're starting to try and get some numbers. So you can forecast basic level by saying, okay, this is the set of keywords we want to be ranking for. Here's some estimate traffic based on if we get into top positions. So you have some numbers. And then, you know, how are you going to track that? Well, you know, hopefully you've got some goal data that you're going to look at. And then you can track it according to your organic your organic channel, traffic and channel, your organic channel. And again, you can start small, right? You can start small in some of these things. Like e-commerce is a lot simpler because you can just drop in, okay, organic. But you know, if you don't have a monetary value yet for some of your goals, put something in there. You know, talk to your sales teams. Certainly, there's a value that can be determined from a single email newsletter sign up, or when someone requests a demo. What's the basic value of that single conversion? And then again, once you have monetary values assigned to those goals, then when you're doing your tracking, you've got some way to show some ROI.
Right.
And again, I would say too, sorry
Go ahead.
to, yeah, because there's one other thing too. It's like there's like the direct conversion of an email sign up, a demo sign up. But then, there's also engagement metrics that, we can put a conversion to, right? So someone actually plays a video or stays on your page for a certain amount of time, right? Or visits X number of pages. Those are engagement metrics that one can also assign, monetary value to.
And I just want to add, and again, we're not going to go deep into this right now, but there are tools. I keep saying that there are tools out there that make tracking a lot of this a lot simpler than it used to be. So there's even tools that are coming out and that exist already that you can track, even unknown visitor paths on your website that can be integrated with your CRM, where you can do lead scoring. There's all sorts of tools out there that make a lot of this a lot simpler than having to manually go in and, download a document or anything like that. So I just want to mention that it sounds like, whoa, that's a lot. Nope, not anymore. It's pretty straightforward.
You can, yeah,
correctly to begin with.
Yeah. And I would say, as much as there's so many painful parts of the GA4, the new Google Analytics 4, and anyone who's looks at, marketing data, they probably know it's been a pain. But their conversion tracking actually is a little bit easier. So, and again, this is something that you can start small, but if you are, we kind of elucidated 4 parts of this business case, right? And this is the 4th one where you're trying to make an estimate of your ROI. And underneath this is, a commitment to setting up your tracking, right? Because you want to make sure that you're going to be tracking at the most basic levels before you're going forward with it. Because at some point, if it's not, this marketing manager or a CMO, the next one in is going to say, show me the data, right? Show me why this is worth doing. And so that's what we're trying to point to here.
Right. Thank you, Jen. So whether you're doing this yourself, you're hiring an agency to help out, or a mix of the two, let's just really high level talk through kind of the steps. What is the SEO process? What is the roadmap or the foundational path that people have to go down?
Go down the path. Yes. Yeah. This is the one that we internally use, but it's, of course, like it is best practice, I think, across agencies. And as we said before, you start with, a definition of your goals, right? It's going to feed into how you're tracking the ROI. So what is that going to be? Growing email list, increasing lead form submissions, of course, e-commerce sales, and so forth, but defining, a few goals that are trackable. Then you're going into establishing the baseline of where you're at by doing an audit. So without going too in depth in an audit, your audit is definitely going to have, a tech component. Usually that's going to catch hopefully some, low hanging fruit. Hopefully it won't unearth like critical development needs, but whatever the case is, we always start with a tech audit. And then you're going to do an analysis of your existing traffic, where you're standing, and the keywords you want to be ranking for. And so keyword research, that's a big part of it. And then competitor research. So kind of like the 4 basics, like competitor research is part of keyword research. I mean, they're all overflowing, but the tech audit, where is your existing traffic coming from? Where you want to go? And then doing your competitor and keyword research. That's the getting yourself ready.
We start SEO engagement with an audit. So I just wanted to clarify this super critical part. If you skip that, you're missing a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, then you take that data and your goals and then you create a roadmap. And this is, again, critical. You can start small, but you want to have, priority based on, the bang for the buck. Like there's a lot that we invest in optimizing existing content, for example. Like that could be a high priority on the roadmap. Creating new content, but any of your tactics going to fall on a roadmap. And then of course you're executing against that, and then you're measuring. So that's kind of, and then it goes around and around in an ongoing loop.
Does not stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, emphasizing that does not stop. So it's not like you're executing 50 things on your roadmap in 1 month, and then you're just done, and your website will be in position #1 on Google forever. This is something where you just have to continually update and add to and execute on over time. It's not like just a one-shot email campaign, right, Jen?
Yeah, no, just like any other market research. It's like you don't just say, okay, well, in 2020, we did our market research, so it's good for the next 10 years or something. And then anyone who's involved in the back end, that like, things are constantly changing in the SEO landscape and then just in tech in general. So, you're in for the long play, I think, with SEO. But again, it's quite different than just PPC, which has its benefits, no doubt. But you have this long game in SEO that, yes, is bringing you traffic, but hopefully it's satisfies your existing and potential users at the same time of bringing you more leads and sales.
Awesome. Well, that I do have a follow-up question for Jen, but that concludes the main part of our program. But I am going to ask one more question of you, a question that we got ahead of time that I think is probably on everyone's mind. But if you guys have any questions, this is the time to ask them. We're about 15 minutes out from the completion of the program, so just let us know. Or if you want to ask us questions after the fact, shoot me an email, Lindsay. You can see the spelling of Lindsay right there at 3aspensmedia.com, or send me a message on LinkedIn, send me a carrier pigeon, whatever you want. And we'll get back to you with some good answers. So Jen, I think everyone's asking this question, and then forgive me, guys. I have 2 dogs playing behind me, so if you can hear that, I apologize ahead of time. Jen, what does Google say about search experience as it relates to AI?
Yeah, AI. Yeah,
a conversation about SEO without talking about AI. So
yeah, that's the big topic, of course. And what's surprising, again, we go to the source, like Google is answering people's questions about this. So the most recent guideline that we find is that, again, where appropriate, it's not against Google's guidelines to have some AI generated content. So it's not like they're blackballing, for lack of a better term, AI assisted or AI solely created content. However, right, if we go back to the helpful content system and reflect on some of those critical questions, right, we know that, of course, the AI models, they're feeding on everyone's data, like loads and loads and loads of data. Yes, there's the capability of original thesis, but I don't think it's there yet. So in a nutshell, it's not banned, but a helpful content is most often coming from a human who has expertise, as we said earlier, the EEAT expertise, experience, and so forth.
Are there, building on that question, are there some, I know there are, so, but are there some tools that you recommend out there, or are there tools out there that are, what's the word for it, just living up to the hype of supporting the content creation process with SEO in mind, powered by AI?
Yeah, like every AI tool, excuse me, every SEO tool is racing to infuse like AI features and features in them. And I just this morning forwarded one along to you, and anyone who works behind the scenes in SEO. Yoast is kind of one of the top plugins for SEO, and they've just rolled out AI-enabled meta title and meta description tool, like with a feature within it. I haven't played with it yet, but I think it's already in some of the site builders too, where if you put a target keyword in, they will suggest some meta titles for you, they'll suggest some meta descriptions for you. And of course, then there's ways to do this at scale using whatever it is, Chat GPT, their AI, their API. But there's ways that people are starting or already are on it of creating ways, for example, in some of the more tedious or mundane tasks. You still, as a SEO, want to make sure you've done your research and you know what your target keywords are. But hey, if you've got like 100 pages and you've determined your target keywords, maybe we'll let the AI write some titles for us, and then have a human approval in there. But that's like one example so far. And then there's other ways. If anyone else who uses tools, like you can run your content through these AI powered check systems, sometimes for better or for worse. But I think there's lots of ways. It's not like we want to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yes.
I was about to say the blanket. So, I mean, there's lots of ways I think that AI is going to continue to support and help with our SEO tasks.
Awesome.
But personally, I think at the beginning and at the foundation of like roadmap creation and human intelligence still continues to play a massive part of that.
Yeah, I think long-term AI is a tool. It can't replace what we do. Jen, I did get a direct question to me. I think it's a good one.
Yeah.
SEO is a long game. We said that a few times. I actually have a response to this before I hand it over to you. Can you address how long and how we set our expectations?
Yeah.
The one thing I was going to say, and you can agree or disagree, or my dogs will start barking in the background and you'll have to take it over. Love the era of Zoom. So my initial answer is it's a forever game. But it's not like it's just a slog, right? I feel like you see the results and they snowball over time. So you're getting rewarded over time. You can accomplish little goals within that, but it's something that really doesn't end. So when we say long game, we really mean forever game. What are your thoughts on that, Jen?
Yeah, I would say a forever game. But I think, again, kind of going back to, if you're going to invest your time and your company's time and money, right, having a plan and being really, specific in that plan. So if you're determining we're going to try and go after this handful of 20 keywords in this, year, right? And then everything, right, in this year, and then everybody bleeds from that. So you can make some estimates now, and then you watch, right? Then you add to it. But if you're following best practices and you have some estimates, like, okay, these keywords, if we get into these positions, right, we could see this uptick, and this uptick in traffic can lead to whatever your normal like lead to conversion rate is. There's ways to make some, simple estimates using data. So, and then, yeah.
What you're pointing to is that it's just because it's a forever game, it doesn't mean you can't, it doesn't mean that you're not blocking it into like, this year, we really want to grow sales of X. So we're going to focus all of our efforts on that. So that effort in and of itself, the bulk of it is going to be done within that year and then maintained over time, right? So the stages of SEO, depending on your goals, are going to go up and down and up and down and up and down, right? But you can't just leave it set, right? So you can, you can track the data, you can find ways to do it that produce really real results in short periods of time. The point of the long game is it has to be maintained, or your competitor is going to run up behind you and take you over, right? If you just let it be.
Yeah, I mean that you can't. Yeah, again, depending on your niche, you just do some simple like work beforehand, even, and look around. Who's ranking? What can you see as their likely organic traffic? And if you're not in those positions, yeah, there's your missed opportunity, right? So, yeah, it definitely is a long game, and it is, a game where you have to be vigilant and you're measuring, because again, like depending on your target keywords, it can be super competitive. It's super competitive. You're like, okay, my blog is ranking in like position 5 for like, this is great. I've reached position 5, and then someone else comes out with like a more comprehensive So it's a constant competitive landscape out there in search. But certainly well worth it when you see, again, and especially if you're investing too in that quality content and you're getting some nice backlinks, you're going to see the bump in traffic. And again, if your site is set up to convert, even at the most simple level, the rewards can be significant.
Definitely. All right. Well, that's all the questions we had, and we're bumping up against the hour. So Jen, thank you so much. I know, time flies. Thank you for having this awesome conversation with me today and for sharing your expertise with our attendees. And thank you to everybody else for joining us. Again, if you have follow-up questions, just reach out to me. In fact, I know a lot of you, or you know somebody on our team. So please don't hesitate to reach out. We're always here. Jen's always happy to provide you an answer. And yeah, I hope you'll join us the next time we have one of these. Yeah, thanks for joining us. Have a great day.
Adios. Thank you.